to It's Our Time. I'm your host, Edidiong Obot, and with me I have Jeff Idehen. Did I say that right?
Jeff Idehen.
Okay, Jeff Idehen. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So, tell us about yourself. What school did you go to? What degree do you have? What are you doing now?
Born and raised Houston, Texas, but definitely Nigerian. So, father's from Guinea. My mom is Ishan, both Edo State. So whenever people ask me where you're from, I say Nigerian now. Back then I used to say just from Houston, Texas. But grew up in Houston my whole life. So every school, everything I did was Houston. Went to University of Houston for undergrad.
Go Cougs.
So go Cougs, let's go. So U of H undergrad, did a business degree, business administration degree. While I was in school, I was also working in banking and finance. So just kind of kept that track going. After about 3 years after graduating from U of H, went to Rice Business School.
Okay.
So I got my MBA from Rice. So that's kind of my school track, all Houston, obviously. Those are my degrees. And more than anything, as far as in the banking world, I'm still in banking right now. I work for JP Morgan in the private bank. But mostly what I believe I get the most fulfillment out of in life is not what I do professionally or even through all that school stuff, but it's through the nonprofit organization. I founded with a good friend of mine. I call him my brother, Toby, maybe about 8-9 years ago. TeamGINI, which is short for Guinea Bumpaki. It means what's your purpose?
In what language?
In Igbo. Okay. So Toby's Igbo, and it translates to that. So it's not that the organization is only for Igbo or only for Africans at all, but we just wanted a really catchy name. But the main point of the organization, it's about purpose. Okay. And getting the young generation to understand that you have purpose in life. And when we say the young generation, we know this is the entertainment generation. Right. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So we say we can use entertainment to actually capture this generation. So we educate through entertainment. We call it edutainment. Edutainment, I like that. Okay. And essentially what we do is we use the performing arts. So we use comedy, poetry, music. We use all of that to where we can grab the attention of this audience. And once you have the attention, then you can pivot their mind state. So we started that many years back, and that's really shaped a lot of what we do now. And from there, Toby, he does music that's just on a whole nother level. It won't be long before he blows up completely. Right. We do something called the Dope Art Show, which I know you had an opportunity. You've actually been a helpful participant of that. But the Dope Art Show is really cool because what it does is it's a live entertaining show. It provides live music. It has some paint in there, speed painters, you name it, any type of performing art necessarily. And it's meant to really be not an anti-club or not an worldly event, but it's meant to be a clean, cool spot you can come have a good time without having to worry about it being some raunchy host saying, F you, mother effer, whatever the case may be. Right. But it's not church. It's not, watered down. It's live entertainment, but it's clean, good fun. And we've been doing it for about 3 years now, getting anywhere from 400 to 500, 600 people to show up. Right. And next show is Valentine's Day, so it's around the corner, so looking forward for that. I'm looking forward for it too.
Okay, jam-packed. So you're currently in banking. Did you know when you were at University of Houston that you always wanted to do something with the finance side or the banking side?
So funny enough, growing up, I was the guy who would argue anybody down. And usually when you're that person, you couldn't tell, I know. Usually when you're that person, everyone says, oh, you're going to be a lawyer, right? Right. So I initially going into school, I actually started off in my major in political science, pre-law, because I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, so one day I could be a judge so I could have my own TV show. That was always the plan. Wow. That didn't happen. Okay. So when I got into U of H, actually I came in pre-law, and I started working at the bank from 18 because I was working at McDonald's from 16, and that gave me the skills to work at the bank. But I just realized while I was at University of Houston, I was doing pre-law. I had all of these classes, that was not necessarily on the business side, not necessarily on the math side, which, since I was a kid, math was my subject, and I got a good revelation from a cousin who was actually in law school. He said, if you're in school and you're doing pre-law and you're doing political science, what happens if you graduate and you find out that you don't want to be a lawyer? Now you have this political science degree, then what are you going to do? But to get into law school, it doesn't matter what major you actually have. You just got to pass the LSAT when it's all said and done. So might as well get into something that you really enjoy and really like, so that way if you decide to be a lawyer or not, at least you have something that you're happy with. And that's probably the best advice I had that time while I was in undergrad pursuing this, because I thought I wanted to be this. I changed over to business, and that's when I really got engaged into the business side. So as I was doing that, I started learning more and more about the financial world, and what went from just working at a regular banking center as a teller to a personal banker to a banking center manager. Then it became a world to where, all right, when I got into business school, I saw what it meant to really be in the financial world. What does private equity mean? What does a venture capital mean? What does all of these other, you know, small fields for people to get into in finance that you really don't know about or how to get into there? I know I didn't until I got into business school, and that's when it really opened my eyes on how far that can really take me.
So did you know that you were going to eventually go to grad school? You got your MBA in it?
Yeah, so I remember when I graduated from undergrad, I said, all right, I know for sure I'm going to go back to grad school, but you know, let me take 6 months off. I mean, 6 months turns into a year, turns into 2 years, 3 years. And what really changed it for me is I was working as a banking center manager. I was the youngest manager at the bank at that time, and I found myself, even though I was doing good, I was getting promotions, and there was a track for me to continue up that route, I realized that it just wasn't stimulating me. I would find myself, when I'd have a break or throughout the day, on my computer on Yahoo Finance, looking at all the business transaction deals on the Wall Street Journal, and I just started to learn there's something more out there, right? What is investment banking? What is investment management? I have no idea, but it seems way more interesting than just being a banking center manager in a banking center. And because of that, I said, all right, it's time for me to finally go back to graduate school. And since, you know, I was in Houston and I've always worked while I was in school, I looked locally. So I looked at U of H, I looked at A&M, I looked at UT. I was sold on A&M at first, and to my ignorance, I finally made it to Rice for an info session, and I knew right away that's where I was supposed to be.
Go Owls.
Against all conventional wisdom, I only applied to Rice, and thank God I got in. And I did ended up doing a full-time program, which wasn't my initial plan, but it was the best 2 years I could have had in my life. I mean, got to meet Warren Buffett in Omaha. Went to New York maybe 4 or 5 times to represent the school, to Atlanta, all over really. And of course the brand of Rice is so strong. So definitely, I know it was a God thing for me, you know, and it's really continuing to be a setup to where I'm eventually going to go with the nonprofit, with all the stuff that we're doing. Like for me, it's really about how do I impact people? How do I impact the world? And I think we have the platforms to where we can do it.
Okay, so somewhere in between there, like you said, about what, 8, 9 years ago, you started TeamGINI or Guinea.
2011 to be exact. So I guess we just hit 2018, so 7 years ago.
7 years ago. Okay. What pushed you guys to say, hey, we have to go back in the community and do something in the community by forming this organization? There's 3 of you guys, right, that formed it?
That's correct.
So it's you, it's Toby Nwigwe, and Michael Brown, correct?
That's correct,
So what made you guys come together and say, hey, now that we're older, we want to give back? What was that conversation like? Yeah,
that's powerful. So for me, at that time, and we grew up in A-Leaf, you know, and
shout out to A-Leaf.
A-Leaf is a better place today than it was when we were growing up. It was a pretty rough spot, and you know, we kind of grew up in the worst parts of A-Leaf particularly. And you know, a lot of my friends definitely that I was running with are not here today, whether it's because they're not alive anymore or because they're locked up and so forth, right? So I was involved and engaged with so many opportunities to fail, but thank God I didn't, right? Quote unquote, right? And so for me, always knowing that some of these guys that I grew up with who are dealing with these issues and challenges, they truly believe that the world is against them. They truly believe that there's not opportunity out there. And I want so bad to show them that there is. I want to be able to do something. And as I was going through that, Toby, who grew up with from 4th to 5th grade, got a phenomenal football scholarship to the University of North Texas, was doing his thing in North Texas. I mean, this guy had his pitcher on the side of the stadium.
Wow.
He was, you know, top recruit for the NFL, and in his senior year, he got a bad injury to where he had to really reevaluate his whole life, essentially. When football had been his life up to that point, everyone was his biggest fan, and as soon as he got injured, like his NFL dream started to dash away. And even from his surgery of fixing his leg, it seemed as if everybody left him. You know, none of the coaches came to visit him when he was in the hospital. He even had to find a ride home.
Wow.
You know, when his surgery was done, he had to just catch a ride from somebody from the school who just so happened to be in the hospital at the same time.
Wow.
And it was through that moment he got to one of the lowest points in his life, and he knew that God kind of showed him at that time that your life is more than football. And because of that, he knew obviously I was doing all the stuff in the bank. I was doing all the stuff with businesses and being able to set that up. So he was the one who kind of reached out to me and said, hey man, I want to do something. I want to start some type of nonprofit organization of sorts. And, you know, and I said, look man, I'm absolutely, you know, with you as far as that's concerned. He's just a natural born entertainer. He works he's a hard worker, absolutely, he grinds, but he's a natural born entertainer. Anybody can say that.
Yes, indeed.
For me, I think my gifting is more on the strategy, business, behind the scenes, make it happen type stuff. Right. And literally from that moment, also with Mike Brown, he's a little bit of both, right? So, you know, we were able to kind of get together and start reshaping to now what's TeamGINI, where we do so many great things for the community, so many great things for people by helping them to understand that they have a purpose in life, and that changes your life completely, right? Yeah. Well, now you have something to live for. Now you have something, even if you don't know exactly what your purpose is, right? You have something to live for. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go to a quick break. Hope to see you when we return. And we're back on It's Our Time. I'm your host, Edidiong Obot, and again, this is Jeff Idehen. I said that right?
You said it right this time. Let's go.
Awesome. All right, so we're talking about TeamGINI, how you guys started it. So tell us a little bit about what TeamGINI is. What do you guys do?
So right now, I mean, it's funny enough, so I told you how we started, and then literally, when we first started, we were just a bunch of passionate people who wanted to do something. And it took us a while to be able to articulate our message and what does it mean to have an organization about purpose? What do we do, right? And I remember in the early stages and ages, we would literally go everywhere, knocking on door-to-door businesses, the city of Houston, you name it, college, universities, passing out flyers, telling people that, hey, you should donate to our upcoming show. And now we've, you know, 7 years later, what we really realize is starting with young adults to then colleges to high schools, what we really realized in order to really alter somebody's direction in their life, middle school is the most ideal age. So now our main focus, even though we still do stuff for young adults through the Dope Art Show, we still do stuff through colleges and so forth, but our main program now, we've done 2 pilots and we have another one coming up in this summer, is a mentorship program, a leadership mentorship program in middle schools. Okay. And the idea is for us to, what makes ours a little bit different is we'll work with the most popular kids in the school. Okay. So we'll connect with the principal and the administrators, and they'll identify the most popular kids in the school. Because our idea is if you could influence the influencers, then you can change the whole school. Yeah. And the way we structure the program is really on 3 pillars. The first one is really on teaching them about purpose. Okay. So we have a purpose curriculum to where, you know, and Toby really put a lot of work and energy into, you know, just going a full-on study on purpose from every, you know, superior person who's already done a study on purpose, and just trying to get the best way to make it a practical means for anybody from our age to someone who's in middle school to be able to understand. And it's a 4-day program a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. On Monday is Purpose Day. Essentially, we'll have one of the curriculum videos that's very interactive and engaging, that kind of touches on a subject about purpose, has some activities involved with it, but on that day is really starting the week off on an element or a principle of purpose. Okay. The next, of the 3 pillars is really teaching them how to create their own experience. So when we first started our show, we would put together, acting skits, music, poetry, and we would perform it for a lot of people. What we do now is we actually teach those kids who are in the program, let's say it's around 15 to 20 kids, we teach them how to create their own show that they're going to perform to the whole school when the program is done. So we teach them how to act, we teach them how to write a script, we teach them about poetry, they come up with their own ideas. The last pilot we did, they came up with teen pregnancy and with teen suicide, and they came up with these things and they helped us, we helped them write the script. It was their own doing, you get what I'm saying? So the second component of that is them actually working on creating an experience that they're going to present for the whole school when the program is done. And the third one, which I think is one of the most important, is exposure. It's an exposure day, and essentially what that is we bring an expert of some sort, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, an NBA player, an NFL player. We'll take them somewhere. We took a group of kids to Texas Southern University. They said it was the first, middle school group that actually came. A lot of high schools go. It was the first middle school group that came. They met with the dean. Oh, wow. I didn't meet my dean at University of Houston, when I was an undergrad. I obviously did it at Rice. But they got to sit down in a business class. They got to meet with the entrepreneurship club. It was a phenomenal experience. It's exposing them to more than what they've seen or what they've known. We believe that exposure expands expectation. So in that program, those are the 3 components. Is teaching them about purpose, getting them prepared to where they can create their own program for the school, and giving them some type of exposure element. And once it's all said and done, they perform for the whole school, then the whole school gets an ability to actually do the curriculum online. And the kids who were in it to start with, the popular kids, whatever you want to call it, they're now refined, purposeful leaders. They get an opportunity to be ambassadors for the whole school as they're doing the program. So that's the actual strategy behind it, and that's what we plan to execute for the next pilot. And from there, it'll be able to take it to where it can literally go all over the country, because it'll be connected through the school system. It'll be you have the partnership with a TSU, with a UFH, so there'll be a TeamGINI of sorts. At Rice, right? You have a TeamGINI of sorts in these different campuses, and they're working on doing these programs in different middle schools. So, so that's what we're really working on right now. Wow, that's some big stuff right there. Yeah, we're excited about it.
I'm excited just hearing about it. I wish I had something like that when I was growing up. I mean, we had something similar, but it wasn't to the full extent where it's very hands-on, like how you guys are doing with the middle school students with the pilot program. So definitely kudos to you guys.
Definitely appreciate that.
Man, so you kept mentioning the Dope Art Show, Dope Art Show. So can you tell our viewers what the Dope Art Show is?
Oh yeah, for sure. So the Dope Art Show is a platform for artistic expression. So what we do in the Dope Art Show is we bring the hottest talent in Houston, in Texas, anywhere really, and we essentially provide a platform for them to be able to show their art, for them to be able to show what they have. It's not amateur night at the Apollo. It's not open mic. These are really great, talented people. We provide the platform, and we have a cause to every show that we do. So we have an opportunity to where when people buy a ticket to come to the Dope Art Show, there's always number one, TeamGINI, and a lot of times we have a lot of other organizations, a lot of causes that will attach to it as well, so that way it can raise money for other nonprofits, other organizations.
Oh wow.
And the show in particular, the last 3 years, we've been able to get it to where now, for sure, we get anywhere from 400, 500, 600 people that come out. We get people who, when we do surveys and stuff now, because we're trying to get it super official, right? It's definitely super official, but getting it to a point to where every time we do surveys now, people are saying, man, this show was extremely good. This show was extremely unique. This show, I'm definitely coming back. So it's something to where when people come to the show, they see that this is different. There's nothing like this in Houston. It's nothing like this in Texas. So really now our aim is to, how do we continue to, let more people get involved and engaged with the show. And one of the things that we're really working on is also being able to take it on the road, take it to Austin, take it to New York and LA and so forth. So we got a lot of plans for 2018 and in 2019. So so that's the Dope Art Show.
That is the Dope Art Show. All right. And the next one is
Valentine's Day, February 14th.
And where can they get tickets?
So tickets, you can go to thedopeartshow.com. Go on to thedopeartshow.com. You can see all the details. You can see all the highlights. And you can definitely get your tickets for this Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day is a very special event for us. It's probably our biggest one because we make it a one-stop shop for you. You can come get phenomenal dinner. We'll get with a really good catering or a restaurant food partner. And they'll do a 3-course meal, chocolate-covered strawberries, wine, the whole 9, and you get the best show in Houston. So it's like, it's a 2-for-1. It's all, you don't have to, fellas, if you're trying to do something for your lady, whether you're married or whether you're just dating someone or you're single, everything is there. We have speed dating for the singles. We got know your mate contest for the couples. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Wow. Again, y'all get your tickets at thedopeartshow.com. I've had fun. It is definitely, as it says, dope art. I want to kind of move towards what we were talking about earlier before the show. You were talking about how you're just now like being able to truly connect with like the Nigerian community. So kind of talk to me a little bit about that. Are you currently involved in it, or how's your experience been, you know, with that?
That's really big. That's interesting. So for me, at a young age, unfortunately, I lost my father when I was 7 years old. And because of that, it really obviously altered my life. When you're that young, you don't know what that means. But as I started to grow up, obviously, I realized it's kind of hard growing up in America. First generation, you know, mom from Nigeria. Now she's the breadwinner for me, older sister, twin brother. You know, it was pretty tough. And from what I've learned, and as I continue to look back at it, because of that, I didn't really, we weren't as engaged or as connected into the Nigerian community as a lot of, you know, my peers are, and now some of my closest friends had the opportunity. One could say that usually, you know, the father drives a lot of that, right? But whatever the reason was, I didn't get as engaged. Not that I didn't have any connection at all to the Nigerian community, but not as much. And so through that, it was an identity thing for me. I mean, back then, like now everybody's woke, right? But back then, you know, my black brothers and sisters made sure I knew I wasn't regular black, right? They made sure I knew I was an African booty scratcher. I was, you name it, right? All of that stuff. And when you're in elementary school and middle school, you know, it kind of throws you off. All right, so I'm not fully regular black. I'm not, you know, I'm not as engaged in the Nigerian community as I want to be, or as I could be, or should be. And so that in itself was a challenge. But for me, you know, being able to get to the point where I'm at now, to where the world is different now, right? Everybody loves Africa now, right? Everybody wants that. Everybody wants that identity now. But for me, one of the best moments I could have had was spring of last year, spring of 2017. Got connected with a group of maybe about 14 guys, and these are friends of mine that I've known from, you know, a long time, but weren't as close. But we all decided to do this crazy thing, which was to do a bachelor party in Nigeria.
That sounds dope.
So you do a bachelor party in Las Vegas, you do a bachelor party in Miami, but you know, my guy said, you know what, we're gonna do a bachelor party in Lagos, Nigeria. And you know, it's a group of about 14, 15 guys. Some of them, they hadn't been to Nigeria at all. Some of them hadn't been since they were like me. I went when I was 8 years old to bury my father. Some of them go all the time. It was like a big mix. And when we did this trip for a week, it was phenomenal. Lagos, Nigeria was phenomenal. It was just, it's probably the best trip you could have had, and we bonded on such a, you know, phenomenal level to where we just had dinner just, you know, a couple weeks ago. We essentially will connect every, you know, so often, and it was just eye-opening for me. I mean, some guys who are in the group, they literally go to Nigeria all the time. They do big business in Nigeria, you know, and they're just like me, you know, and so it's something to where it really resonated with me, and I want to do so much for Nigeria now. You know, not that I didn't want to before, but now the more. I can't. You know, we're planning a couple more trips this year.
Yay, that's
and
good.
Doing some business there, right? And really being able to harness everything we learned here from the University of Houston, from Rice Business School, from the American world, from the financial world, from you name it, from the energy world, but being able to use that expertise back home in Nigeria, in Nigeria, to really make a difference and to really change what's going on over there. So that's what I'm excited about as well.
I need to. Let me be a part of this group so I can.
It's the fellas, though. It's the fellas.
It's the fellas. I need to be like an adopted honorary member so I can go. No, I definitely love that. I'm a firm believer of like when you actually go to Nigeria and you experience it, you have a different perspective on Nigerians, the culture, the grind, the successes, the failures, and you find a way to tap into that. Absolutely. So I'm definitely excited to hear all about the upcoming trips that y'all are going to be doing.
Definitely.
So before we wrap up, I always like to ask, like, what's a fun thing you like to do?
That's good. A fun thing.
Fun.
What do I like to do that's fun? I like to to me, my fun is traveling.
Okay.
I like to see all of the world. I love travel. We just did a 7-day cruise, which was a buddy moon. Toby just got married. And so I guess the new thing is a buddy moon, right?
Buddy moon. Okay.
So we went a group of 8 people, and it was a cruise. We went to Honduras, to Costa Maya, and to Cozumel. But outside of that, I love traveling. That was a cruise, but I love flying places and getting in the natural habitat of the community. Into Hiroshima, Tokyo, Dubai. Some of the favorite places I've actually had an opportunity to go to was not just on some beach somewhere, but just being able to kind of chill with the locals.
Yeah.
I went to Milan sometime, I guess it was last year, and I stayed with somebody who was a friend of mine that I met through work, who came out here to New York, lives in Milan, worked in the Milan office of the company I work for. And he said, hey, whenever you want to come over, come out here. So I took him up on the offer.
Right.
And so I didn't do an Airbnb. I stayed with him and got to experience all of Milano, Italy, which was phenomenal. Geneva, Switzerland. That's what is fun to me, is being able to see more of the world. I think the world is so much bigger than A-Leaf, Texas, than Houston, Texas, you know, than America. There's so much richness out there. Yeah. Even if this is the richest country in the world, in America, like, man, I've been so impressed with what's out there. Even the areas that you wouldn't expect to be. I was so impressed with Lagos. Yeah. We had a ball in Lagos, you know, so. Turn up. So yeah, that's what I like to do for fun, is travel. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us on It's Our Time. Again, you can catch us at the next episode. I'm your host, Edidiong Obot. Thank you for tuning in.